Okay everybody, and welcome to today's class guide and review on StoneCrusher. Today's video is going to come to you in a few parts. First part, how to obtain the class. Second part is going to be going over the enhancements that are best for this class. Then I'm going to be covering the skills and abilities on the class. Then we're going to be going over supporting, soloing, and then PvP with this class, before wrapping up with the conclusion at the end. So let's get into it. First off, how do you obtain the class? StoneCrusher is a tier 3 class. What this means is that you need to have rank 10 rep with 3 different factions in order to obtain the class. Those being Mythsong, Arcane Grove, and Bright Oak. Once you have obtained rank 10 rep with all 3 factions, you can come to the class shop in Bright Oak, and you can purchase StoneCrusher by merging all of the items you have obtained so far. Or, the class is purchasable from Ragnar and Babylon for 2,000 ACs in the class shop. So, now we're going to get into the enhancements for the class. The enhancements testing here is simply raw DPS output. This is simply how fast can it kill King Cole. And as you can see, it really came very, very close. The difference between the best and the worst time were a simple 7 seconds. And so honestly on StoneCrusher, it really doesn't matter what you pick. And the reason that 3 Wiz 1 Luck came out on top here in this scenario was simply for the extra mana generation, that the extra crit and crit damage multiplier that you get from the luck here. Under an actual supporting situation, or when fighting a boss that deals more damage where you have to worry a little bit more about staying alive, I think that Full Wizard will come out on top in that scenario. But under a pure just I need to kill the boss as quick as possible scenario, it does make sense that splashing a little bit of luck in there will make you do some more damage. So at the end of the day, for StoneCrusher's enhancements, I think it's really not a big deal which you pick. As long as you're not picking like Fighter or Spellbreaker, you're going to be okay. That pretty much any combination of Wizard and Luck is going to work out relatively well for you. And now we're going to get into the class's abilities and skills. I am currently running Full Wizard on my StoneCrusher for increased survivability and the better haste that it provides. So these are the stats that you will be seeing if you're running Full Wizard. StoneCrusher has a normal 2.0 second auto attack speed with 100% auto attack damage, so no funniness with the auto attack this time around. So before I get into the actual abilities, I need to mention that all of StoneCrusher's abilities, all of them, have a 25% chance to apply magnitude for 2 seconds. While you are under the effects of magnitude, all of your abilities will have an extra effect to them, an extra modifier, a bonus, or something else to them. Using an ability while under the effects of magnitude will not consume that buff, but it will simply give you the bonus. So if you can get off 2 abilities during 1 magnitude activation, you will receive the magnitude proc for both. Your first ability is Stalagmite. Stalagmite costs 15 mana on a 6-second cooldown. Stalagmite does medium damage to the target on each hit, and applies a stacking buff called Bruised. Bruised increases all damage the target takes by 8% per stack. These stacks last for 8 seconds, stacking up to a maximum of 5 times. If magnitude is applied, Stalagmite will increase its damage, dealing 390% spell damage instead of 130%, as well as having a 50% chance to stun the target for 4 seconds. Your second ability is Echoing Earth. Echoing Earth costs 25 mana on an 18-second cooldown. Echoing Earth applies Resonant Dissonance to you and 5 targets. Resonant Dissonance increases all parties affected haste and crit chance by 30%, as well as increasing their mana regen for 10 seconds. If magnitude is applied, the mana cost of all parties affected are also reduced by 20%. This does stack on top of the increased mana regen that this effect applies normally. Your third ability is Land's Embrace. Land's Embrace costs 25 mana on a 12-second cooldown. Land's Embrace applies shielding to you and up to 5 allies, increasing their damage resistance by 50% and applying a small heal over time for 4 seconds. If magnitude is applied, it increases the damage resistance from shielding from 50% to 80% and doubles the effectiveness of the heal over time. Your final ability is Endless Fissure. Endless Fissure costs 35 mana on a 30-second cooldown. Endless Fissure deals 300% weapon damage up front, as well as applying the buff, as well as applying Aftershock to the target. After shot, give the target a DOT that increases each time you deal damage to the target for 30 seconds. If magnitude is applied, both the upfront damage and the DOT damage that this ability does is tripled, as well as reducing the target's crit rate and haste by 40% for 8 seconds. This class does have 2 passives and does not have a rank 10 passive. Your first passive is Gaia's Knowledge. Gaia's Knowledge increases your haste by 20%, and Shifting Place. Shifting Place increases your endurance by 20%. So I'm going to quickly run down kind of how you use this class on sort of a more basic level, and then I'll get in depth into more how to use it in each scenario, whether it's soloing, supporting, or PvP in each of those sections. In general, you just kind of want to spam your abilities. This class really doesn't struggle with mana too much or health, and at the end of the day, you really don't have to keep an eye on those too much. As long as you're not completely spamming your abilities on cooldown, you should be relatively safe as far as health and mana are concerned. And really the only thing you have to worry about is making sure you're watching for magnitude. If magnitude procs and you need to get extra damage in, or you want to get extra damage in, use Endless Fissure. If you're in a fight that's a little bit more difficult and you need to get in more survivability, then use Lance Embrace. If you're struggling on mana, or if you're in a supporting scenario where you're trying to support people, and magnitude procs, use Echoing Earth. If you're in PvP, you normally want to try and proc Stalagmite or Endless Fissure, because those are going to be a stun or increased damage, respectively. So, now with that being said, we're going to get into the section talking about supporting on this class. StoneCrusher is first and foremost a support class, and while its skills and abilities may make it a very viable soloing class as well, it simply doesn't have the same kind of damage output in the vast majority of fights as many other classes. In long, drawn-out fights, StoneCrusher proves very well because of its stacking dot, being able to get to very increasingly crazy levels, sometimes doing 4, even 5k damage per second, in addition to your other abilities. But in many boss fighting scenarios and many soloing scenarios, it's a lot of times better to use another soloing class, simply because a lot of them do have higher damage than StoneCrusher on their own. But where StoneCrusher shines is in a party, paired with others, as StoneCrusher has the ability to increase mana regen and reduce mana cost, which is something that very few classes are capable of doing in this game, and really allows it to support classes in a way that almost no one else is able to. StoneCrusher allows many of these classes that normally struggle with mana or health issues to spam to their heart's content without having to worry so much, that you can help keep these classes topped up on health and mana, and let these classes that are normally hindered by their weak sustain really let loose and do what they can truly do, and show off how powerful they are. Many of the Chrono classes and Calendar classes are very powerful and do very high damage, but have mediocre sustain, if any, and struggle to really boss fight under normal situations. However, when paired with a StoneCrusher, these classes can go insane, doing ludicrous amounts of DPS, doing millions of damage in simply a few minutes. The same can be said for Lightcaster and Elemental Warrior, and while Lightcaster is a support class in its own right, it is also a class that deals very high damage, and when paired with a StoneCrusher, it can let loose, really letting itself go full tilt, focusing on damaging rather than being a supporting role. And same with Elemental Warrior. Elemental Warrior can do crazy damage as well, competing with many Chrono classes as far as pure DPS output, but the class's bad heal and mana generation really hinders it in a normal boss fighting scenario. And you as a StoneCrusher allow these classes to really push to their full potential and really get the damage out that they're not able to do under normal situations. So, how powerful and how effective is StoneCrusher actually as a support? Well, I actually had a stream where many of my viewers helped me out with figuring this out, as it's relatively difficult to test out how powerful a support class is with nobody's support. So, with that being said, your kill time unbuffed was normally in the high 4-minute range. 4-minute 45, 4-minute 40 to 5 minutes. So higher end of 4 minutes was their time to kill Ectorax unbuffed on their own. When StoneCrusher came in, I did not use my 5 because I didn't want to add that extra damage into the fight, and I was only using my 4 in order to refresh the cooldown on the stacks for the increased damage. I was not spamming my 2 on cooldown for the extra damage. I was trying just to use it when necessary to keep the stacks from falling off. Outside of that, I just used 4 to keep the party alive and 3 to keep the party buffed. And the difference that it made was it cut the time it took to kill Ectorax almost in half, taking the time to kill on average from high 4 minutes to being in the mid 230s. And that's a huge difference, considering that yes, bringing in a 6th person into the party dealing extra damage is going to cut the time down. However, it shouldn't cut the time down by almost half, considering that I wasn't using my most damaging ability, and was really only bringing the extra damage that my auto attacks and that one ability on like an 8-second cycle is doing. In addition to that, we did test other support classes as well. We tested Lightcaster, Archfiend, and Archpaladin. Lightcaster came in with the best time for a support buff, taking the time from almost 5 minutes down to about 2 minutes on average. This means that it cut the time more than in half. This means that Lightcaster coming in cut the time by more than half, and this is Lightcaster not using its 3 or 5 abilities, because they don't add anything to this fight outside of damage. Lightcaster was only using its 2 and 3. Archfiend cut the time down from a high 4 minutes to low 3 minutes, cutting the time by about a minute and a half, which is not bad, considering that really the only thing Archfiend brings to the table is some extra crit chance and crit damage, as well as the extra damage output that its 5th ability brings, and that's on a relatively high cooldown, whereas many of the other effects from these other classes are up permanently over the entire fight. Final class that we tested was Archpaladin. Archpaladin was able to cut the time down from high 4 minutes to high 2 minutes, around the 3-minute range, 240 to 3-minute range. So there we saw about a 2-minute improvement on time to kill by bringing in Archpaladin. And Archpaladin, once again, was only using its 2 and 3. 3 to keep the party alive when people were at risk of dying, and 2 to help kill the boss. I was not using Seal or Sacred Magic Eden during that fight. So as you can see, the support classes do have a pretty huge impact on time to kill on these bosses, as simply by introducing these support classes, you change the speed that these bosses die by a significant amount, StoneCrusher and Lightcaster being the most impactful of these, and StoneCrusher and Lightcaster even crippling themselves because they're not doing their normal damage. Archpaladin, in this scenario, is even pretty close to its maximum damage output, as in a normal scenario, you're not going to want to use Sacred Magic Eden because consuming those stacks of commandment is not normally something that you want to do, as it ends up removing those commandment stacks, making the entire party do less damage as well as you do less damage overall. So Archpaladin really isn't going to get a buff by going into a boss fighting scenario and being left unchecked, whereas StoneCrusher and Lightcaster still have room to grow beyond this, as well as Archfiend to an extent. And some of you may look at this and say that, well, Lightcaster is the best support class in the game, that Lightcaster beats StoneCrusher and makes you kill the boss faster than StoneCrusher. And I want to say that that's not necessarily the case, because you have to consider what classes you're fighting with. If you have a Chrono class in your room, Elemental Warrior, maybe some of the Dark Casters, classes that are very, very mana hungry, then StoneCrusher is definitely going to come out on top there, because it can let those classes really let loose. Whereas Lightcaster just increases party damage, crit chance, flat damage increase from 2 different sources. It really increases overall party damage dealt. It doesn't really help the party out in many other ways by making them more durable, by increasing their mana regen and making them more durable and have better sustain overall. That's really StoneCrusher's bread and butter, is that in the mana management that StoneCrusher brings to the table that really no other support class can do right now. So now that we've talked about the support capabilities, we're going to hop over to Blood Titan to talk about the soloing capabilities of this class a bit. So StoneCrusher is a very powerful soloing class, being able to take down a lot of very powerful bosses in the game, and it gets even better the higher health that that mob has, because of its 5th ability's damage stacking. This class is not some of the highest support damage, this class is not some of the highest soloing class damage in the game, it's not even the tankiest soloing class. But it is a very, very good and versatile soloing class, having high damage reduction, consistent healing, consistent damage output, while putting out good, consistent crits as well. So, overall, this is a pretty fair soloing class, and can very easily handle regular Blood Titan. While it can't kill Ultra Blood Titan, and you'll see that here in a minute, it still fares relatively well, and can last for a reasonable amount of time, barring proper procs of magnitude. And really, proccing magnitude at the proper time is really the only thing holding the class back from soloing Ultra Blood Titan. This class very well could solo Ultra Blood Titan if you could reliably proc magnitude on your 4th ability. But as soon as magnitude stops proccing on your 4th ability, well, then you die, and it comes down to some RNG in that scenario. So, with that being said, we're going to jump into the regular Blood Titan fight, jump into the Ultra Blood Titan fight. I'll see you guys after that. Okay, so there's that fight. Pretty easy peasy, not too much fight whining about it. And we're gonna get into the Ultra fight. I might actually do this one a few times, trying to get kind of the best try, because like I said, it really does come down to magnitude procs. If I can proc magnitude in combination with Land's Embrace, I basically can't die in this fight. As soon as Land's Embrace stops getting magnitude procs, I die. And that's literally all there is to it. So, if I can get 2 or 3 good magnitude procs, then I can last in this fight for a minute or so. If I can't, well, I'll die almost instantly. So, with that being said, I'll probably run my face against this a few times and see if I can get a good attempt in. If I can't, I'll just put my best try in, and then we'll move on. So, after a few attempts, I wasn't able to get some really good magnitude procs, unfortunately. I have managed to get through about half of his health before, simply by getting just ridiculously good magnitude procs. But, unfortunately, no dice this time. But, this class is very, very powerful, and as I've said, as long as you can keep magnitude proccing on Land's Embrace, you're basically unkillable here. And that's incredible, considering how hard Blood Titan hits when in Rage mode, and the fact that he can't be dodged, he can't be stunned, is very impressive, and any class that can even try and compete against Ultra Blood Titan is very impressive as a soloing class. We're now going to hop over to the PvP section. We're going to talk about PvP for a little bit, and then we're going to move into the wrap-up and conclusion. StoneCrusher in PvP is interesting, as it doesn't have the normal trappings that make a powerful PvP class. It doesn't have a crazy stun, doesn't have a crazy heal, no crazy burst damage or dodge capabilities, but it's consistent, and that consistency is what gives it power. Consistent, low cooldowns, and consistent damage, healing, damage mitigation, that's what makes StoneCrusher good both in supporting, soloing, and even in PvP. It's got good, steady damage output, good, steady healing, and a lot of classes in PvP are meant for burst. Big burst of damage, big burst of durability, big burst of healing. And StoneCrusher comes at it from a different angle that a lot of classes in PvP are simply not ready for, or are not equipped to handle. That you do have a weakness in big burst damage classes, like Caster, Archpaladin, Cryomancer. These classes that come out the gate and try and one-shot you right away. That you don't have big burst heal. You can't just get hit and then heal for 3k and be okay after that. That you have a heal over time, so theoretically you can heal back up. Unfortunately, if they put you down under 1,000 health, most of the time they're just going to be able to follow up and kill you right after that, because you're not going to have time to heal back up like you need to. You're not just going to be able to go Archpaladin, crit yourself for 5k on a heal, and be full health again and walk it off like it was nothing. You don't have that tool available to you. So you're a lot of times going for a little bit more drawn out, slower paced fight, because you do have a DOT, a heal over time, and stacking damage increases. And if you do get in a fight that meets that criteria, where it is a little bit more drawn out, you can get that damage out a little bit slower, you can do very, very well actually, and are relatively well matched up against those classes, and can be an actual force to be reckoned with. Hey guys, DanielsWorlds here to let you guys know of a special partnership that I'm bringing you in combination with Tora's Art Shop. Tora's Art Shop is a friend of the channel, friend of the AQW community, doing commission-based art over at his Etsy page. Tora does both physical, yes physical, and digital art done by him. So you guys want something special to hang up on your wall or put on your desk to show off your favorite in-game set or items or NPC, this is a great way to do it. If you guys just want a digital art, or if you want something from outside of AQW, you can get that done as well, and it's all for a really great price. If you guys want to contact him or order anything from him, please go check out his Instagram, Twitter, or Etsy. They're all linked down below, and if you go check him out, please let him know that Daniel sent you. Okay, so here we are at my house for the wrap-up and conclusion on StoneCrusher. StoneCrusher is a very good and very competent support class, soloing class, even an okay PvP class. That while it's not the greatest PvP class, it can hold its own at times, and while it's not the greatest for Blood Red Brawl, and that actually seems kind of counterintuitive because of all of its buffs that you get in a party system, and now it's going to do great. If you're working with friends, if you have a party with you, if you've got 2 or 3 people that you're playing with, then yeah, you can do very well in Blood Red Brawl just by buffing them, keeping them alive, supporting them. But if you're just doing random Blood Red Brawls, it's not going to go great, and that's kind of an unfortunate situation. But in PvP, it's relatively okay. Your 5 ability is a pretty good nuke. You've got really durable. Your 5 ability is a pretty good nuke. You're relatively durable. You've got low cooldowns and a relatively high crit chance. At the end of the day, you're relatively powerful in 1v1 PvPs, and while you can be okay in Blood Red Brawl, it takes a relatively good scenario for you to do that. You're very good in soloing, you're an amazing support class, it's really capable of doing something that no other class can right now, and at the end of the day, it's a very, very good class. It's definitely worth obtaining. And I've honestly seen a lot less StoneCrushers nowadays since Lightcaster came out. Since Lightcaster came out, a lot of people have been using Lightcaster as their go-to support and soloing class of choice. And it's not a bad choice by any means. You guys saw the support table. You guys have maybe even seen my Lightcaster guide. Know that it's very, very incredibly powerful. But StoneCrusher has a place, and its place is in really supporting those pure DPS classes, and supporting those DPS classes, and really making other classes shine. StoneCrusher's power is not in its own power, but it's in the power that it gives to others, and that's really where StoneCrusher becomes the greatest, and that's why StoneCrusher is, in my eyes at least, still the best support in the game, even with Archpaladin and Lightcaster and Archfiend and Bard and Healer all existing. So, with that being said, the class is very, very worth it. And whether you're going to get it with ACs or by farming the rep, it's very, very worth it. And I would recommend it to almost any veteran player who is willing to put either the time or the money involved to get the class. So, with all that being said, as always, I thank you guys for watching. I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you all next time. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoy this content and want to see more from me, please feel free to subscribe. If you guys want to leave a like, comment, anything like that, please do that all below. And, as always, this content is brought to you by your kind support over at Patreon. Thank you.